Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series The Human from a Dungeon. If you're new to this series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 92. Nick Smith, Adventurer Level 9, Human American. We made our way through the village as the early morning sun tried its best to drive away the chill. As we approached the Adventurers Guild, Yenny and Namora ran up to greet us. Catalina, who must have come to see her friends off, stood near the entrance and watched us.
"It's about time you showed up," Yenna poked Yoke in the chest. "We've been waiting for you."
"Oh, yes, Mother suspected as such," Yoke said with a patronizing smile. "I nearly argued with her because the magic card isn't due until noon, and then I realized that you are lightly excited at the prospect of attending an actual school." "Yeah, the school's why she's excited," Nomura said sarcastically. I struggled not to sigh at how close Nomura was standing to me. The hints that she was dropping weren't exactly subtle. It had been going on since we'd returned to Naluva. Unfortunately, she had opted for a passive-aggressive approach to flirtation, standing or sitting closer to me than expected or necessary, staring at me when she thinks I can't see her, laughing a little too hard at my jokes. The type of micro-flirting that one can only engage or ignore. If I actively spoke of my disinterest, she would hide behind the shield of weaponized ignorance. Of course, she's just standing there. She's just laughing at my jokes. She's just looking in my general direction. She's not flirting or displaying interest whatsoever, and I must be vain to think otherwise. It's not the first time I've encountered this particular form of passive aggression. Cassandra's best friend, Emily, started doing things like this about a month after Cass and I started dating. Instead of ignoring the situation and letting Cass handle it, I pulled out the White Knight routine and confronted Emily about her behavior. The resulting drama cost Cass and I a couple of friends and nearly broke us up. It's entirely possible that I'm projecting a falsely toxic personality upon Nomura because of my past experience with Emily. It's also possible that this is unfair to Nomura and she simply doesn't know any better ways to flirt with people. I couldn't help but be a little upset that I couldn't simply tell her no and be done with it, though. "There's a chance that the magic card might get you early," Nash said. "Let's head in. I want to get Nick's level tested again." "Really?" I asked. "Yeah." "Let's see the results of your training," Thunra beamed. "I can tell you the results. I learned Spear Punch and Knife Hand. I also leveled up Time Dilation, Dash, and Preternatural Invasion." "Leveled up?" Nomura asked.
"Nick has the ability that allows him to see a list of his skills. Through this, we discovered that certain skills which we previously believed simply got better with familiarity are actually level-based," York explained. "Oh, I see. Do the levels towards your adventurer level?" "We don't know. In a more controlled environment, we might be able to find out, but it would seem that increasing the levels of a skill happens to be a bit, temperamental."
"You can say that again," I complained. "Everything we went through and they only just now leveled up."
"It still takes the rest of us longer," Nash growled. "Now, if you're done bitching and moaning, let's get in and get you tested."
"But what if I'm not done bitching and moaning?" I asked with a grin.
Nash shoved his face forward as York, Thunra, and I laughed. We entered the guild, walked straight up to Nima, without even asking what we wanted.
She reached under the counter and pulled out the... "You know, I just realized that I don't even know what this thing is called," I said, gesturing towards the box. York, Nash, and Thunra shared a glance but remained silent. The type of silence that indicated ignorance, which made me feel a lot better about waiting this long to ask. Nima looked at the four of us and shook her head with a smile.
"This is the Kuragard interface device, or the CID for short," Nima explained with a light chuckle. "You're the first non-employee that I've heard ask about it."
"Odd," York interjected. "I wonder if there's some sort of psychological manipulation effect on the device that dissuades curiosity." "Or whenever a box comes out, people are just thinking about other things," Nash rolled his eyes. "Levels have a higher career impact."
"I suppose that could be true as well."
Thunra chuckled at my brother's conversation as York gave Nima my adventurer ID card. She plugged it into the box, and the handprint appeared after a familiar light show. I steeled myself, the memory of nearly being killed by this damn thing fresh in my mind, and placed my hand on the light. Instead of searing pain, a light tingle passed through my hand, and I breathed a sigh of relief. A moment later, the status screen changed slightly. Not knowing what it said, I glanced between Yuk and Nima. Yuk liked he was stifling a laugh. "Well, I'll be damned. Level 11, Thunra said loudly, clapping me on the back. 2 levels? Eni asked, shocked. Nash growled, "Son of a..." "Careful," Yuk interrupted, still struggling to keep his composure. "Mom adopted him, remember?" "Oh, shut up, you know what I meant." "What's the problem?" Thunra asked. "He's been working just as hard as the rest of us." "What's the problem?" Nash sighed. "He's working as hard as we are, but gaining new skills, spells and levels much faster than we can. It's, frustrating." "Oh, sure. I get where you're coming from, but there's a couple things to take into account here. First off, he ain't the same species as we are. Maybe that's why he's got an advantage. Or maybe that advantage comes with some disadvantages that we don't know yet. Second, he may not have to work as long as you, but he's got to work as hard, so it ain't like it's getting these levels for free. Third, you aren't in competition. These strengths boosts your own," Thunra explained with a shrug. "I can see a view from your hill, but I think you'll be looking in the wrong direction." Nash scowled, then looked at Nima, who was nodding sagely in agreement with Thunra. We stood in silence for a moment as Nash processed everything. Finally, he let out a big sigh. "I guess you're right." He shook his head. "I'm probably just upset that it took so damn long for me to get up to this point." "And what do we do when we're in the wrong?" Nima asked patronizingly. Sorry, Nick," he said quietly. "Did you say something, darling?" "Please accept my humblest of apologies for taking my frustrations out on you, Nick," he said at a level of volume that could only be described as sarcastic. "I hope that one day I can be granted the boon of your forgiveness." "That's better," Nima smiled with an equal measure of sarcasm. Nima gave me my ID, and I absent-mindedly passed it back to Yuk. It had finally happened. I caught up to Nash in levels. Does that mean that I'm as strong as he is? His size alone made that difficult to believe. "Let's grab a place to sit before it fills up in here," Thunra suggested. "Anyone want breakfast? My treat." The girls quickly agreed, and we picked one of the large tables to sit at. My mind barely registered that it was the very same one we had chosen to sit at the night that Nash made a fool of himself by proposing to Nima. I was so preoccupied that I almost didn't notice that Namora had once again chosen the seat to my right as well. Nash and I were both a level 11. Not that I would have to, but I doubted that I could actually take him in a fight. My burly brother definitely had more fighting experience than I did, and even after all my training and leveling up, I felt like if I didn't get a lucky shot in, he'd wipe the floor with me. Even Yuk would probably wreck me if it came down to it. The power of my spells weren't anything to scoff at, but the variety that Yuk could use would likely give him a win in a duel of magic. He probably has spells that would give him a win even if I were to use my physical advantage against him. So then, what's the point of the levels exactly? I'm 4 levels above Yuk, and I doubt my ability to beat him. I'm the same level as Nash, but not even close to his equal in a fight. Yet Thunra, being several levels above my own, could also wipe the floor with all 3 of us in a real fight without even breaking a sweat. I'd seen people place importance on level. They even had phrases like over 10s and over 20s, denoting an obvious difference between the two. Yet here I sat, a brand new over 10 who didn't really notice a difference in my actual ability to fight. Maybe Nash was right to be upset. He was definitely right about one thing, though. I'd put in work, but it had come easier to me than it had to him. He had actually been forced to put his life at risk to gain the skills and experience that he has. He had gained most of mine in training. I absent-mindedly listened to the conversation around me. The girls were talking about their hopes for the school, and Yuk was desperately trying to temper their expectations and them back to reality. Nash and Thunra were barely listening, seemingly focused on me. "You know, Nick, you've done real good with your training," Thunra interrupted the girls, who quickly fell silent. "Maybe you got an advantage being a human. Maybe you don't. Either way, there ain't another soul in this village that could have kept up with me in the ring like you did." We all sat silently for a moment while I tried to figure out how to reply. Thank you," I said. "I've been martial arts before, though, back in my world." "You deserve the compliment, Nick," Nash sighed. "I was being unfair earlier. It's hard to see someone surpass you, and you're well on your way to doing that. Hells, you probably already have." "No way," I replied, shocked by Nash's attitude shift. If we fought for real, you'd kick my ass, maybe, but it would be a close thing, and it would depend on your confidence going into the fight. You're close enough to my level of skill with weaponry that I have nothing left to teach you, and on top of that, you have unarmed expertise and magic. You think that after your training with Thunder, I can still take you in a fish fight? Are you saying that you can't? Of course not. Not if you put any sort of effort into it. Sure, I know how to throw a punch and deflect, but I don't have any skills that will let me keep up with you or Thunder. Then there's the magic thing. I can't do magic at all, not a single fucking spell. And I've learned the hard way from sparring with Yuk that magic isn't something to scoff at. He's right, Thunder said. If a Sork gets a spell off before you get close enough to engage them, you'll be lucky to live through the experience. Yeah, and on top of that, you're about to be on your way to hone your skills in magic, Nash said. It probably won't be long before you no longer need Yuk and I for combat support. We'll still accompany you, though, Yuk chuckled. Extra bodies are always a boon in a fight. Additionally, we know more about this world than you do. I don't know what to say, I replied. Thank you. Thunder, who was sitting to my left, clapped his massive hand onto my back. The group returned to their discussions, and I returned to my thoughts. A lot of the anxiety that had been building up in my gut had suddenly faded away, and I found myself finally feeling excited for what's to come. I wondered what the Magic Academy would be like. I'd seen a few movies and shows that featured similar settings, but the High Chief had made it sound like this one wasn't going to be nearly as grand as most of those were. I almost chuckled at the mental image of learning new and powerful spells in the back of a shed. Before I knew it, it was nearly noon. We left the guild and waited outside for the arrival of the magic cart. Not long after, a large and nastless cart rolled up in front of the building. The wooden portions of the magic cart were painted dark green and had golden inlays that glimmered in the sun. 4 lanterns were installed on top of the carriage, but they weren't lit. There was also a place for a driver, occupied by an orc in a scout uniform. Magic cart for Yuk and Nick, the driver announced. That would be us, Yuk said. We would like to take 3 bob with us. Is that acceptable? Yes, sir. Please board with your party. We'll be leaving shortly. The driver hopped down, opened the door for us, then walked into the guild. I raised an eyebrow, and Ash laughed. Probably has to take a lake, he said. All right, brothers. I won't be long to keep you out of trouble this time. Don't do anything that will make Mom kill you. We won't, Yuk replied, then grinned. Probably. Good luck with Nima, I said. The girls said their goodbyes to each other, and Thunder shook Nash's hand. Then we helped the girls load their bags and threw our sacks next to them. We climbed into the magic cart as the driver came back, and waved at Nash and Catalina as we began to drive away. Next up, Kokena, the driver said. End of chapter. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, Jon Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.